Guys, what's going on? It's Dave, Mr. White LS1. Thank you for joining me today in the CarburetorSuck.com garage. I appreciate it. So it is beautiful outside. It's about mid-60s and I'm gonna roll with the door open today. It's gonna be awesome. So a couple things. I want to get out and do some tougher trails. So the truck is, it's kind of there, but I'm open front and rear and that ain't good. So I went ahead and picked me up a mini spooler, and I didn't really want to fork out the 400 bucks for Detroit. So I figured 120 bucks will get me there with this mini spool. So we got to take the center section out of the sucker today, and that is what we're going to do. So first things first, I'm going to get in here. I'm going to remove the diff cover and pull the axles out, and then I'm going to let it drain while I'm pulling out the axles. Alright guys, she's out and on the bench. The the carrier bearing caps, those suckers are on there tight. I guess they've been on there since 1979-ish or somewhere around there. So, but the bearing, I mean, this bearing looks good. I'm gonna inspect the other one. I said I gotta go up and get some brake clean, but yeah, it's looking pretty good. I never taken one of these apart before, but we're doing it right now. So anyways, let's do that. Let's pull this apart and we'll go from there. Alright guys, got her out, up on the bench, and apart, and then back together. The old stuff is here, and the spool is in here. Now, I've read some reviews about this particular mini spool, and it's just a, I don't know, it's just a cheap frickin' Chinese piece, but anyways. And they were saying, oh, you know, I had to frickin', you know, take and grind it, or I had to put it in a lathe because it wouldn't fit right. So I noticed when I put the top half of the case on that it was, you know, it was snug, you know, like I couldn't, you know, I couldn't push it on by myself. Like I could kind of wiggle it and get it started a little bit. And then what I did is I was like, well, you know, it doesn't seem tight. It almost seemed like on an LS, like putting the balancer pulley on, you know what I mean? Like it's snug. You need you need something to push it in, but it's not enough that it's gonna like hurt anything. So that's really all I did. I just took this I don't know, synthetic plastic freaking plank or whatever it is. I just set it on there because the bearing's pushed a little bit further than the actual case half itself. I just set it on there. I just whacked it a little bit with the hammer, and not like super hard, but just enough to keep it going down nice and slow, and it went almost all the way. And then I kind of tapped around the case a little bit, and some of the spots weren't drawn in all the way. So then I did the bolts. You know, I did you know, I kind of did them in a, you know, a cross pattern, and I haven't torqued it yet, but everything right now is drawn up as far as the ring gear and, you know, the two case halves. So I'm not really foreseeing any issue with it. I think it's just one of those things. It's, you know, I mean, I guess I could have probably hit it with some emery cloth for a little while and wore it down, but I figured, you know, since it'd be hell to get out of there, but it's one of those things to where, you know, I mean, it's supposed to sit nice and centered in there so you can, you know, get your axles and stuff in. So I didn't want to really go taking much material off, so I figured, what the hell. So as far as these, it seemed like, you know, all that was good. It sat in there really nice. Sorry. But yeah, so that's all. So I mean, if you guys go with this brand, I don't even know what the hell the brand is, but I don't know, whatever. It yeah, I don't know. I guess I could have made it a big deal, but I didn't feel like it was going to be enough to where like it was crack the frickin' case or anything. It was just snug, basically. So just whacked it on there, and you know, it really is almost like, yeah, like putting a frickin' balancer pulley on, or maybe putting a seal in or something. I mean, it was just tight. So that's all. But it's back together now. I'm going to figure out what the torque spec is on this, and torque it down. My wife's going to be back in a minute, so then I'll be able to, I'm just going to drive up to Checkers. I'm just going to spray these bearings off, and then, you know, just to make sure I didn't get any crap in them. So I was touching them with my gloves, and they're not particularly that clean, but the bearings don't look that bad, and the races don't look that bad either. So yeah, and so what I ended up doing is, before I even took this out, I scribed the adjusters, because there's an adjuster on each side. So I scribed it, and then I scribed it where the adjuster lock goes in, so that way I know what position it's in, and then as long as I see my scribe marks are, you know, right where they need to be, and this isn't all loose, then I should be good to go. Alright, 120 foot-pounds, check. So that wasn't too bad. I just held the frickin' breaker bar and my big old Cornwell frickin' torque frickin' ratchet dealio thingamajiggy anyway. So I torque wrench. But anyways, I just held it, click click. I kind of went around, like I kind of felt like they needed to be snugged one more time, so then I kind of went all of them in the cross pattern again with this, just kind of like snugging them with this, because there was a lot more that I could get on them. And then I did the second round, I hit them to spec. So I think at 120 pounds, everything's drawn up pretty well. I think something would have broke before then, but anyways, I think it's just fine. So I'm gonna take a little break, get me some brake clean, and kind of spray the assembly off, clean it up a little bit, and get it back up in there. Alright, I made it up and got me some brake clean, so I'm gonna blast this sucker off and just make sure that there's no grime in the bearings, and I'm gonna clean the races as well. And so basically there's really not much to this thing. It's just 2 case halves, a ring gear, and a couple bearings, and then the mini spool. So yeah, I don't know, it's looking kind of awesome in there. And I did check to make sure the axles would fit in there before I proceeded, just to make sure, you know, it's the right gear spun and stuff like that. So anyways, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll might blast out that frickin' the lower part of the deal there, clean the magnet and stuff while I'm in there. Yeah, might as well. Alright, let's do it. Let's clean it up here. Alright, so it's back up in there now. I think everything's in the same spot as it was when it came out. So what I typically like to do is, I don't know if you can see here, but it's tough to see, but what I do is I make a mark, like a little scribe on there, and you've seen that probably in the video, but I mark where this keeper goes on both sides. I don't know if you can see maybe you can see my little scratches I put on there. And then in addition to that, like right where it touches here, I made a scribe so that I know that this is back in the same spot, you know, this way and that way. And I didn't turn them a bunch in and out to get one. And I guess in retrospect, I could have adjusted one instead of the, you know, instead of just both of them. But I got that one to the right location. And then I adjusted this one back. I made a scribe on this one, but I can't really see it. But I just went until I could see my little marks that I put. And I know that it's pretty much in the right location. I tried to go further, and it got really tight. And then you don't want to go loose. So I went to where, you know, there's just like a tiny something, but there ain't much more. You know what I mean? Like there's a tiny bit of movement, but I think that's okay because, you know, it's gonna get hot, you know, and it's gonna start, you know, it'll fill out a little bit. So you don't want it like super tight, and you don't want it super loose. So anyways, those got me right where I needed to go. And in addition to that, you can see here, I mean, there's just tiny, I mean you can feel it just clunk just a tiny bit, but I mean there ain't really nothing there. And what I did, I put some grease on there. I couldn't really see the pattern, but I can see where the pinion meets the gears back there. I flashed the light back there. Let's see, you can see up in there, and I let it ride around the gear, and it looks like the depth is right. You can see when it spins around, because you can see the teeth, how they're worn. You got a dark spot and a light spot, and you can see where it's just running right by that light spot, and it's not touching the dark spot. So it looks like the depth is good. It's in the gear okay, so you know it's at the right location. That's really it. So like I said, the gear went back on the assembly, everything the way it came out, all the same bolts. I kept the caps on the same sides and the races, so I should be good to go. Right now I'm just going to I'm gonna clean up my cover and get it bolted back on, and then we'll fill it up with fluid. Maybe take a little ride. Let's get this sucker back together. You know, another thing I did, and it might help you out too, is this thing is heavier than everything on this thing. Everything you take off of a 14 bolt weighs 50 pounds, but what I did is after I cleaned the bearings, I put some high temp you know, disc bearing grease on it, and then just kind of got it all up in the bearing, and then I put some in the race so that it kind of helped the race stick better, and so that way when I was lifting it up, the races weren't like falling off, just because if you don't have a second set of hands, it gets a little heavy. But that's it. So yeah, anyways, we'll go back together now. Alright guys, well I just got back from a little test spin. I took it up the road and I hit the highway for a few minutes, and I didn't hear any abnormal noises, didn't really hear anything. I have a freaking idler pulley going bad, so it was squeaking like a mofo, so I don't know. I didn't, other than that, I didn't hear anything, so I think it's alright. I got the old back, but that's cool. I can live with that as long as I can, you know, hit some trails and have a little more traction. That is all. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for rolling with me, for putting this mini spool in, and I'll quit talking your ear off. You guys take care. Have a good one.